After what feels like forever being away from you, Danny, we are finally back, 94 feet back in action. Cade Cameron, Danny Stepanovich with me. Danny, let's start it off. How are you doing today?
Good, Kate. Doing good in California. So far away from you. We're not in the Blaze studio anymore, but we're still making it work after a couple weeks break.
Exactly. Got to make it work out. It's been a long time. It feels like, but finally back in action. Like I said, to go through a quick recap of what we're doing today. Obviously, of course, Game 7 just finished up in the Eastern Conference Finals. We want to talk about that. Boston coming away with that one, going back to the first NBA Finals since 2010. We'll get a quick NBA Finals preview, kind of see who we think are going to possibly win it all in 2022. Of course, it wouldn't be 94 feet without fit of the week, so we're going to go back into that. And then, unfortunately, we do want to take it into a little bit more of a serious note. Pat Connaughton did wear a shirt kind of discussing the gun violence in America today and the climate there. And we do want to have the opportunity to use our platform to talk about that. But let's get right into it, starting off with that Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Oh my gosh, that was a close game. I mean, a game that shouldn't have been that close, but Miami almost pulled it off right there.
I mean, the game literally just ended a couple hours ago. We're still processing what happened, but something that Boston has been struggling to do all season long, all playoffs long, it's struggling to close out games. And we saw it live in action, Game 7. Midway through the fourth, Boston goes on an 8-0 run. They go up, I think it was like 12 after a Jason Tatum 3. I thought that was the game. Miami couldn't buy a basket. They missed 9 field goals in a row. Tatum, his last bucket was at 4:28. They go up 11. Couple possessions later, Marcus Smart missed field goal. Marcus Smart missed 3. Marcus Smart missed 3. Marcus Smart another missed 3. Then there's that Brown offensive foul on Strus, and all of a sudden, Strus hits a 3, and it's a 2-point game in a matter of minutes. It feels like. And then once again, Marcus Smart again missed layup. He bought redemption with the 2 made free throws there at the end. But once again, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown kind of came up small in the fourth quarter, end of the fourth quarter. And what's been, kind of an occurrence this whole series, this whole playoffs is, for some reason, the ball finds the hands of Marcus Smart, and it's him shooting a 3 to make a decision. What'd you make out of that, kid?
I mean, it was just an absolutely crazy game. The best way I could describe it is I remember a few years back in the in March Madness. I think it was a game Texas A&M maybe against like Northern Illinois, some team that really didn't deserve to be there. But Northern Illinois was, or not Northern Illinois, Northern Iowa. They were up big. A&M should like pretty much was down. I think like 9 or something with a few seconds left in the game. They find a way to fight back in it, take it to overtime, win the game. Obviously, not the same situation you see here with Miami and Boston, but it's still just absolutely insane to see that a Game 7 had the chance to see a flip the script on the outcome of that game. I mean, you look at it. God, I'm messing up names right now. Jimmy Butler had an opportunity to seal the game, and he got a little bit too happy with it. Tried going for the 3 instead of trying to tie it back up. So it was
Do
just
you think he made
overall.
the right decision?
I think in the moment when you got a guy like Jimmy Butler open the way he was, especially the way he played this entire postseason, I don't think it was a bad decision. But still, at the same time, I mean, that was the difference between making an absolute legacy for yourself, kind of washing over that 2020 NBA Finals loss, and making a new name for yourself pretty much, compared to obviously just what happened now where he fell short again. But at the end of the day, like I said, do I think that was the wrong decision? No. But in a moment like that, I feel like you almost have to play it safer, especially since they were down the entirety of the game.
I mean, I kind of agree with you. Jimmy Butler, he shot 23% from 3 this season. Not known, I think he averaged 0.5 a game. Not known for his 3-point shooting, but I agree with you that I feel like in that moment, you're at home. I mean, he had a good look. You can't be mad at him pulling the trigger. Best player on the team by far. I'm not mad at him. I feel like tomorrow morning he's gonna get ripped a lot in mainstream the talk shows in the morning for taking that shot. He had the whole paint to work with, but it was an open three, just short. He pulled it up, and then Miami going to Strus late in the game. Two times he came up short again. Another kind of thing that kind of unfolded, I think, that we can talk about was Tyler Hero only played 6 minutes this game. We saw so many stretches earlier today where Miami found themselves in 14-point holes, 12-point deficits. They clawed back into it, but no Tyler Hero that entire time. He had a rough series, only 12 points per game the first 3 games, and he put up a goose egg 0.6 minutes. You think they should have gone to Tyler Hero?
I think, I mean, as you mentioned, just the fact that he hasn't been playing to that six man of the year award kind of capability, it's kind of hard to go to a guy that just wasn't producing the way he was. But at the same time, it was obvious that Miami was dealing with some injuries on that team. Having the more depth, even if it doesn't mean giving it to a guy that isn't necessarily producing the way that you want him to, I think that's something that you kind of got to consider. But at the same time, it showed that he honestly wasn't a huge factor. I don't think he would have been a huge factor in this game, even if he did get those minutes. But at the same time, I feel like, again, you kind of got to think about that and say, if he was getting the ball more often, if he did get put in more, how would that affected that game? Would Miami have been able to hit more threes? Maybe it would have been him cementing his playoff legacy by hitting the game-winning three instead of Jimmy Butler with the ball. These are questions that you don't really have the answers to, but at the same time, when you're talking about the game being as close as it was, especially at the end, even though the game really wasn't that close the entirety of the other 47 minutes of the game, the fact that it was as close as it was, you almost have to consider the fact that if they did have a little bit more depth, they're obviously going to Hero with it. That could have been a game changer in this situation.
I know. I want to shout out, like you said, it's these coaching decisions that these coaches got to live and die with. Ime Udoku, I'm gonna give him a shout out. Game 6, third quarter, Robert Williams, he puts up 10 points in the third quarter last game. He led the team in the third, and he ended up benching him in the fourth, going small. And we saw in Game 7 tonight, Celtics, they stayed small. Robert Williams, I know he was dealing with some injury, unsure if he was going to play, but they said he was good to go. Only played 14 minutes, and it was an ineffective 14 minutes. And they kind of rode that Derek White, Grant Williams combo. No Payne Pritchard either, but they went small, and it worked. I mean, we saw Tatum was matching up against Butler. We saw some Derek White on Bam, and Bam he kind of ate. Bam kind of woke up tonight, but going small for the Celtics worked for them. Whereas Spoelstra wasn't able to pull the right strings, I guess. PJ Tucker, he didn't look good tonight. Strus missed a lot. Kyle Lowry, he put up an ineffective 15 points per game. He was felt mostly on the defensive end. How many charges did he draw? Jeez.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
Celtics pulling the right strings, and bold move by Boston, not going with Robert Williams after Williams kind of sunned Bam like this entire series, and they didn't go to him this game. So shout out to Boston.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, even then too, Bam put up some decent numbers. I think he was the second leading scorer behind Jimmy Butler today. But yeah, I think the two biggest takeaways, and it doesn't matter if it's game one of the first round of the playoffs or if it's game 7 of the NBA Finals. I think the two biggest themes that you see consistently are, first off, no matter, like, you're gonna be able to play. You're gonna want to play the guy who's hot. That guy's gonna be the one that's gonna be able to get you points. He's gonna be able to put stats on the board. And realistically, I mean, like I said, doesn't matter if it's game 1 of the first round or game 7 of the NBA Finals. If somebody's out there putting up stats, you have to continue to play him until he's done putting up stats. And that's obviously shown with Jimmy Butler today. He played all 48 minutes. I mean, he tried his hardest out there. He went out there, I think, still put up somewhere in the 30s. Let me look that up real quick.
35.
35. Okay, yeah, exactly. That's exactly the numbers he's been putting up pretty much this entire postseason, especially in the Eastern Conference Finals. So that's the first theme that you see. The second theme that you see is the fact that coaches always narrow down that bench the deeper into the postseason it gets. You're not going to be seeing these players that kind of no names that came off the bench in the offseason, or not in the offseason, in the regular season, come in and actually see any real minutes unless it's an absolute blowout, which we've seen plenty of those this postseason. But like I said, those benches get a little narrower. Going back to Tyler Hero, exactly. That's probably one of the reasons why he didn't see that much playing time is that even though he was the sixth man of the year, he wasn't getting the stats that Spoelstra wanted, and they're obviously going to take him off the bench for that. Strauss was a guy, again, a perfect example, has had a history of not putting up big numbers in the regular season or at really any point at all in his career. He finally gets to the big stage and he makes the best out of it. So obviously, you look at the way this game was played for Miami. It's a fan. I mean, they obviously had a fantastic season, being the number one overall seed, but at the same time, it just seems that down the stretch they didn't necessarily have the pieces to close this series out.
I mean, yeah, like you said, it was just, it came to like they were playing 1990s basketball down there. Boston, we saw them come out super hot. They didn't want Miami to get into their set defense, so we saw them running the floor earlier in the game. They must have had 13 easy transition points in that first half. And then Miami, I mean, with no Tyler Hero, I feel like we've been saying this all season. It's like, man, it's Jimmy Butler a bust. We do know Bam showed up big. But heading into this offseason, it's going to be interesting to see what Miami does. Kyle Lowry, I mean, I don't know. He's got 2 more years on his deal. I think they're paying him $30 million a year. Depot, that's another guy. Do they want to bring back? He's been hurt, but he came up big on the defensive side. Another offensive piece for them. In my opinion, if I'm Miami, I feel like anyone is tradable besides Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I
That's
agree with
Bam
that.
included.
Yeah, I agree with that. Um, Bam has been fantastic in Miami, but at the same time, I think that you could see Miami going in the direction of a different center. I think there's that possibility of either trying to grab a guy that's young, but at the same time, really at the college ranks. Other than well, at least not this year, you're not going to see it. But the college ranks, you don't really have any of these big time centers that are actually going to be able to make that transition well enough. At least that's the way I see it right now. And then, of course, yeah, I could see that. Honestly, Jimmy Butler is the only one that's there that's really should be there to stay. Uh, yeah, no, plain and simple, I agree with that. Do you want to head into the finals preview, though? Kind of go into Boston, Golden State, see what that has to show?
Let's do it.
All right. I was going to say, we got game one Thursday night. I think that'll be at 6 o'clock at Chase Center in San Francisco. I was going to say, I think this has it has a chance of being one of the better NBA finals I think we've seen in recent memory. I think these are just two teams that are going to match up really well against each other. And I mean, one of the most important stats about this NBA finals is that you now have the number one defense playing the number two defense in the league this season, which is, I mean, this could be a fantastic matchup for both teams. And I think and like I said, I think there's a very good chance that we could see this possibly being one of the best NBA finals in recent memory.
I mean, ooh, a heavy statement, but it should be I see this series going to 7. My boy Jason Tatum, he's right up here, throwing up the number one. He was rocking that 2-4. I know you saw that,
Oh yeah.
Cade, earlier today. Finally made it to the finals after this was his third try in the making it all the way to the semifinals. But he finally got over the hump. It's gonna be his time to shine. And I don't know if you have a pick already, but I'll break it down a little bit before I give out my pick. I feel like it's still way too early to give out a pick. But when we look at both of these teams, what they've done in the postseason so far, I feel like Boston, they're way more battle tested than the Warriors. If you look at who the Warriors have played, they start off with Denver, who it was really Jokic or bust. Nuggets did not have the guards to throw at Wiggins, Curry, Clay, Poole. That was an easy series to predict. I think that went to 5. We look at Memphis. John Morant goes down early in the series, and then Luka. It was Luka or bust. No one really had the Mavs last series. And then Boston, they start off with Brooklyn, who people were picking Brooklyn over Boston. And did they sweep? They swept the
Yeah,
Nets,
that was a
right?
sweep.
That was a sweep. And then they beat, I know Chris Middleton went down in that Milwaukee series, but even to beat Giannis, the defending champs at Milwaukee, game 7, they took down Milwaukee, and then they took Miami, the 1 seed, to 7 games, took them down. Boston's way more battle tested, but this is still two teams that struggle to close games. We highlighted how Boston was, they for some reason they keep leaning on Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum. I know he's rocking that 2-4, but he needs to go Mamba mentality and just take over games. We haven't seen that yet. And on the Warriors side, I highlighted how they kind of cruised through their postseason, but they were struggling to close out games too. If you remember the Grizzlies without John Morant, they were pushing the Warriors. People were saying, "Hey, this Grizzlies team, they're playing better without Ja for some reason." Even against the Nuggets in the first round, they go up 3-1. Denver took a game, and it was like, why is Golden State not just closing these boys out? And then even going back to that Mavs series, I look at Game 4 when uh, you know Warriors just took the foot off the gas. Or no, Game 5, sorry. Where Mavs made it interesting at the end. We know we know that the Mavs weren't going to win that game, but Warriors, they have struggles closing out games. Steph Curry, historically in the finals, we all know they blew that 3-1 lead a couple years ago, but even before that and after that, it's like Curry, he wasn't the guy hitting the big shots to close out the game. It's going to be interesting to see who the Warriors lean to, to close out games. I'm sure it'll be Curry, but Jordan Poole, unproven. Clay, I know Game 6 Clay and everything, but he's he hasn't looked the same. Andrew Wiggins, he looked good, but Luka Doncic was guarding him. So in the last series, it's going to be a fun series. What are you looking at the defensive matchups, Cade?
So I was going to say, you kind of set the standard pretty well right there. I mean, you have a Warriors team that you can kind of make the argument that they cruise to their Western Conference championship. As you said, Denver, Memphis, Dallas, they're not really the strongest teams out of that conference. I mean, Memphis was obviously a fantastic team. That's why they're the second seed. But even then, they weren't really playing it the way a second seed should. So so obviously, as you mentioned, the Warriors kind of cruising their way to a Western Conference championship. The Celtics having that experience going into the finals with playing three really hard teams to beat. That's probably one of the biggest storylines. But of course, one thing that you got to recognize is that the Golden State Warriors this is their sixth NBA Finals appearance in 8 seasons, and those 2 of those seasons that they didn't make the NBA Finals, they didn't make the postseason at all because of injuries. So it's going to be fantastic seeing this one team that, like I said, or that, as you mentioned, hasn't had the hardest postseason so far, but has still had that experience to make themselves known again and to kind of rebuild themselves. And then obviously, of course, Boston kind of, again, they're rebuilding themselves in a different way with their young stars, beating all these top tier teams out of the East. But as you said, defensively, this is going to be something that will be really interesting to see just because, again, you have such depth at both sides. I mean, obviously, Draymond Green out of Golden State at beginning of the season before winter break, or even going into the All-Star break, honestly, they had Draymond Green as a possible Defensive Player of the Year finalist. I mean, I think we both had him as Defensive Player of the Year going into the All-Star break. So you're talking about a guy who is still just doing it on all sides of the ball and really being that defensive leader on the second ranked defensive team in the NBA. As I mentioned, the number one defensive team in the NBA being the Boston Celtics, they were 18-21 going into 2022. That defense helped them step up and make it to the NBA Finals. So at the end of the day, I mean, again, led by Marcus Smart, Robert Williams. Robert Williams was a guy that everybody had as Defensive Player of the Year. Coming into the end of the season, he gets injured. Marcus Smart takes that position as that top defensive player on that team. It's like I said. I mean, I keep saying it. They're two fantastic. My bad. Two fantastic defensive teams, and it's gonna really play out just as this series goes on. Two teams that have a lot of trouble closing it out. It's just a matter of realistically how good each defense is and how much each defense really wants it more, you know?
I mean, I'm interested to see how Golden State responds offensively, especially because in the last series, especially against the Mavs, it was like whoever's Luka's guarding, they can cook up, and we'll give them the ball. But like you said, this defensive team on Boston, every single player on that starting 5 received a defensive year of award, a vote, something like that. They received a vote for defensive player of the year. And like I've said this all year. It's wings. That's how you form a really good team. And both of these teams have solid wings that can match up with one another. Andrew Wiggins, Klay Thompson, JT, JB, obviously on the Celtics. But X factor for me, it's going to be Jaylen Brown. How effective can he be for the Boston Celtics? Everyone's going to be talking about Jason Tatum, but Jaylen Brown, it felt like every single time Victor Oladipo was guarding him this series and earlier today, that ball was getting poked out. Boston gonna have to limit the turnovers. Jason Tatum did a way better job earlier today. He started distributing more, limited the turnovers, but Boston, they need to keep. You can't be turning the ball over, especially against the Warriors, a high pace transition team like the Warriors that's going to launch threes. It's going to be a fun series. Kay, do you have a pick?
Um, yeah, I think as of now, one of the biggest things that I lean on is the fact that the Warriors rely so heavily on guard play, and the Boston Celtics, some of their best defenders are guards. So I think that's going to play a big role in this. I think that might be the determining factor in this. Um, I mean, as you mentioned, I think it's going 7, and I think Boston's going to take home their first championship since 2008.
Wow, I agree with you. I'm with you on that. Jordan Poole, as nice, as cool as Jordan Poole is, I'm not trusting him in the NBA Finals on the biggest stage just yet. Klay Thompson, I haven't been impressed, and Steph Curry. As much as I love Steph Curry, top 10 player of all time, I'll call him that. But I don't trust him yet to close out games. Whereas Boston, I know I've been clowning on them for not closing out games, but I think that they have more reliable options on offense. They can match up well, like you said. You put Marcus Smart on Steph Curry, he's not gonna stop him, obviously, but Smart did a damage on. I don't even know if he did a damage on Jimmy Butler, honestly. But give me Boston in 7. Did you say 7 as well?
Yes, at 7. So we
Okay,
got
yeah,
the easy. We got the same take, so that makes it
okay.
easy. But yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned it too, Jordan Poole. I think if Golden State was to have an X factor, it would be Jordan Poole. I think a lot of people expect a lot out of Klay Thompson, especially just because the way he's been playing in the postseason and since his injury back. Steph Curry obviously being one of the best players in the game as of now. People are going to see that those two players in particular cook consistently. You're not going to really see a lack of play there. But of course, at the same time, it's all a matter of what guard play is going to be stopped, not necessarily how much is going to be made. And that's why I'm saying is that with Boston, for how well that or that defense. Oh, did Danny exit out of me? Dang it! Did he lose his? All right, guys. Well, we'll get back to this shortly. I'll stay on here though. Let me get this set up real quick. I apologize for the inconvenience, guys. Hold up. We'll be right back. Don't worry about it. We're going to get this all set up real quick. There we go.
I'm
All
going
right, we got
mobile
it
here.
set
I'm
up.
so sorry, bro.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We got it back up.
The show
I was gonna
must go
say,
on.
just don't pay attention to the graphics over by Danny's head. They don't look the best, but oh yeah, okay. So going back to what I was saying though, it really comes down to first off how well Jordan Poole can play and how much well he can guard against these talented defensive guards against Boston. And of course, as I mentioned, our Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, they're both are players that have that experience and that are going to be doing really good. You expect good things to happen out of those two players. It's against that. It's where that depth is necessary, and that's where it's going to be questionable for the Golden State Warriors to see if they can rise to the occasion and actually play well against this guard play, this fast-paced guard play that Boston has.
It should be a great series. Both teams are like. I mean, it's going 7. I feel like, and this was like the best match. Like, I did not want to see Golden State Miami. As as happy I would have been for Jimmy Butler to make the finals. I wanted to see Boston, even as a Laker fan. as a Jason Tatum fan too.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like that. I mean, it would have been nice to see. I mean, I think at the end of the day, Jimmy Butler is going to end his career with a ring somewhere. But of course, at the same time, it's got to wait. You know, I think the Celtics Warriors matchup is going to be great, and realistically, I think it could be the best matchup that the NBA could have offered. You know, I think you look at the teams out of the East. There's a lot of great teams, but I think the two teams that really stood out this year were Milwaukee and Boston, in the sense that those are two teams that could be end up being really good out of the East, and that could find their way into the finals conversation. That would actually bring in viewers. Out of the West was a little bit different, obviously. I mean, you had Memphis, which I didn't really see as a big time market. I think a lot of people were expecting to see the Suns back there. Obviously, that didn't work out for them. Who knows how that would have been with viewership? But at the end of the day, I think this is going to be a great series for viewership. I could very much see this again, like I said, going 7 in favor of Boston.
I agree, Kay. You're lucky we didn't have a show while Phoenix was choking away that that game
Yeah, I
7.
know. Oh my god! I'll say it right now. I stopped watching at halftime. No, not before halftime. I stopped watching when Cam Johnson tried taking a charge on Luca, got got knocked over, and the three right there. I was just like, you know what? I'm hands off that one. I'm not watching that anymore. All right, you want to hit fit of the? Are you okay? Wait, real quick, just to make sure you said Boston 7, right?
Boston in 7. Let's do it.
Okay, I got Boston 7 as well. We're gonna do fit of the week right now. It is gonna be a little bit different because since this is video that it's getting uploaded on YouTube pretty much right after, we won't be able to have actual like photos to show you right there. That just means that you have to follow us on Twitter and Instagram if you want to keep around with fit of the week. So, Danny, as usual, we'll start off with you. Who you got as for your fit of the week?
I got my boy right up there, like I said earlier, Jason Tatum. I think this was game 4, game 5 maybe, but he's rocking the Coach K shirt up top, and down low he's rocking some knitted shorts. And I picked this fit because it's summertime. You know, you gonna be sweaty depending where you live. And this is like such a unique type of shorts. They're knitted, and they might be 101s, but I kind of want to get my hands on something like that for sure. And then he's got the Jordan 2s that just dropped, I think a couple days ago. The gray joints, the gray and blue ones, not the
The
yellow and cream
Unions?
ones. Yeah, the Union too.
Yeah.
So fire fit. Who you got, kid?
I was gonna say you had to shout out those Jordan 2s because those were your sneaker of the year too.
Exactly.
I was gonna say can't go wrong with those. Obviously keeping in the East, but going with the player on the Heat, going with PJ Tucker, sneaker king in the NBA. I think just the aesthetic here is fantastic. He's got the brown fitted on with the old Orioles logo, which I think is different. It looks like just a classic pair of red beats, which I like, the studio beats. He got the purple sweater on, the graphic tee, white pants, and then it looks like it almost the shoes. I will admit, almost look like like back in the day when you get home from middle school, you hop on the Nike app and you just design your own sneaker in the custom ID shop.
Yeah, the Nike IDs. Yeah.
Yeah, those that's exactly what it looks like. Just a pair of forces that he just went on the Nike website on like middle of the night, just bored random with it and just went with it.
It's funny because PJ Tucker, the king of sneakers, those are probably worth like 20 grand too.
Oh, of course, exactly. It's some joint that nobody knows about that is like that. Yeah, like specifically his. That yeah, it's something random like that. I know it.
So
All
yeah,
right,
hey, also Kate, we're doing post games after every NBA
that's
finals.
right. I just gonna say I forgot to mention that. Yeah. Okay. So for everybody listening, we are going to be doing things a little bit differently, just because obviously with the NBA Finals, one of the more electric times of the year for basketball, we want to be able to kind of break down every game one by one. So usually we would be doing shows every Sunday night from this point on, just kind of keep with that schedule. But while the NBA Finals are going on, we are going to be doing post game live streams for those games. Um, Not really sure how long they're going to last, just because we're only going to really be diving into one game, but we will be on pretty much after each game of the NBA Finals this season. Whether that's for 4 games or 7 games, we'll have to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll make sure we get that in the schedule. Make sure that you guys stick along with that. And yeah, I was gonna say, so obviously, of course, you'll see us again on Thursday. But yeah, it should be a great time. And then, as mentioned, since we are done with Fit of the Week, make sure that you do go vote on that Instagram, Twitter, follow us there. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, with the events that happened in Texas last week, I think with our platform as of now, we do have to take the time to actually sit down and talk about this. Oh, you got the camera set up the right way. All right, there you
Yeah.
go. All right,
Sorry that
but
took so long. I was like, maybe if
no,
I
it's all good,
rotate
no
my
worries.
phone.
But like I said, I think it's important for us. It's obviously not a big platform we have, but it is a platform that I feel like we do still need to step up on and actually discuss this information, just because it is important. Um, I'll kind of go into a personal story to kind of start off with it. I was born and raised in Tucson, lived there. I mean, I still do technically live there, just whenever I'm not in school and whatnot. So I remember back in 2011 when I really first Safeway there that involved Representative Gabrielle Giffords. I think if I remember correctly, obviously there was a good death toll there, a lot of injuries there. And of course, at the same time, that was something that was done because of gun violence. And obviously, now you look at this 11 years have passed since then, and just how much has continued to happen, and how little that's very little has changed since then either. So, as I mentioned, I do want to take this time to actually sit here and just kind of reflect on this, kind of get our thoughts out, kind of get that point out that this stuff is still happening, and that this is much bigger than just stuff you see on the news these days. I feel like at this point, we're at a point where if it doesn't hit close to home, it's not something that people really put much attention to. And first off, we kind of have to knock off that stigma in the sense that this is still massive news that we have to pay attention to. But at the same time, it has to stop. It's ridiculous. Something needs to be done about it, and it blows my mind that nothing has been done about it.
I mean, you kind of gave your anecdote, Cade. 3 years ago, I don't know if you remember, there was a shooting in Thousand Oaks, California. It's about 15 minutes away from where I live, at a country club. Every Thursday night, there's Kowloon, the nearby college, has a country night dance club for Thursday night for the college students. And some maniac walked in with an AR and killed 12 people. Um, my mom's coworker's daughter was in the shooting, and I know it's not super connected to me, but I still knew someone that was affected by that. And it's like, this has been going on for such a long time, and I really hope that after 19 children lost their lives in Texas. I can't. I work with kids. I've been working with kids for the last 4 years, and it just breaks my heart that 19 fourth graders were gunned down by some crazy 18-year-old who legally purchased an AR. I really hope that something is done. I've been saying this for the last 5 years. It feels like it's like, do people really need to buy ARs? I mean, uh, it's like, if you guys haven't seen on First Take, Mad Dog actually gave a beautiful rant on his thoughts on the situation. He's very educated on the matter, and basically, these right wing politicians, they're backed by the NRA, and they're scared to make change, and it's been going on for too long. And I really hope that um, you know moving forward, we see some sort of change, and I feel like it has to be done.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the most frustrating things I think I see out of this too is the fact that, like, as we've mentioned, this is lives on the line. These are people's lives, and the fact that we are still making it as political as it is just really bothers me in a sense. Like, something big like this comes out, and you have the people consistently saying, like, there needs to be something done right now that restricting gun laws, or there needs to be something right now to make it more accessible so that people have that opportunity to protect themselves, instead of looking at that picture of being, these are 19 lives that are lost, 19 young lives that are lost. Like, why are we trying to make this political in the moment? Like, it should be something that obviously is political, because you have to elect the people that go into office to make sure that there actually are these laws that either restrict people from getting weapons, or make areas safer by, I guess, in a sense, letting more people have more access to weapons. But as mentioned, it's I can understand why the idea of gun safety is a political topic, but the lives in general should not be a political topic, you know? Like, this should be something that obviously you need to do what you can to make sure that people are being put into office that are are going to be able to try making the community safer. But at the same time, that's in a voting situation, you know? This isn't a new situation where you're hearing about the deaths of many people. Why are you making it political? Just it's a simple again, that part bothers me so much is the politics side of it and how people try making this as political as it is when there is no politics behind trying to save lives.
I mean, you said it beautifully. It's like I know you've probably people have seen this everywhere, but it's like in the Texas shooting, it took an hour and 20 minutes for the police to enter that barricaded classroom that 18-year-old was camped out in. And if the police are scared to fight these types of guns that kids are legally able to buy. I mean, there has to be some sort of change. The Texas governor, that mayor, that police chief. Earlier this year, they all voted. Now they're obviously they're heartbroken. But earlier this year in December, that they voted against gun control, and it's unfortunate it's come to this. I really hope I really hope there's some change, man.
No, I agree. I think a necessity at this point. And one of the things that I was listening to a podcast earlier this week, I think it was like Thursday or something. And one of the scariest things to think about too is that obviously back in 2012 when we heard about Newtown and Sandy Hook and that entire shooting, I mean that shocked thousands of people around the country, around the world realistically. You know, it was uncalled for to see a gunman go into an elementary school and take the lives of 26 people. That was just uncalled for. Now you're looking at it not 10 years later, and like realistically, you see the same stuff in the news, but there isn't that same shock to it because it's just so normalized here in the United States. And it blows my mind that it's gotten to this point where it is normalized. And that same podcast I was listening to, I agree with the statement, but when Sandy Hook happened and the government did nothing to try making any changes to the gun procedures in the United States, that set the mark right there. You know, that set the mark in the sense that if they weren't going to do anything about it there, what makes any citizen in this country think that they're going to do it in the future? You know, that's again the scariest part about that it's just not a shock anymore. Like it's something that just has become so normalized and so regular in the U.S. that it just you just look at this and just say, okay, it's another headline. And the fact that this is happening right after a massive shooting in Buffalo happened, I mean,
Yeah.
it just lists and lists of these mass shootings, and again, what needs to happen for the government to actually step in and do something about this? I just went on an entire rant about how I hate how this is all political, but realistic. But again, at the same time, it's like the only way these lives are going to be saved is if the government steps in and does something. I hate how political it has to be. I hate how people try making it political because the loss of life isn't something that's political. Obviously, gun laws are political, but the loss of life isn't something that should be made political. But again, at the same time, in order to stop this from happening, what needs to be done?
Yeah, seriously, man, you couldn't have said it better than I could have. You said it
Yeah,
perfect.
it's I mean, it's
Yeah,
been on my mind a lot, you know, it's tough to see. Um Obviously, like pretty much one of the biggest things that we're trying to get out of this message is for our viewers out there, whoever does end up watching this. I know it's not going to be a lot of people just because it's late at night. Like I said, we don't have that big of a platform, but we still got to use that. But in this upcoming election, vote for the people you know are going to keep this country safe, keep your area safe. I feel like there's very little that the actual national government could do, but there's still ways that you can make an effort in trying to make your community safer yourself, you know, and that goes into voting. Vote for the people that you know are going to be making this community safer. If you have the opportunity, donate to the organizations that are helping prevent gun violence around the country. In this case, I mean, if you have the opportunity, do what you can to donate to the families who lost lives in at Robb Elementary. I mean, I plan on doing it. I was going to say right after this episode, I can't put in much because I just don't have that money, but I'm still going to try putting in money to help make sure that the people are at least getting that support from me. You know, like I said, I feel like talking about it's one thing, being able to post something on Instagram or Twitter or whatnot, that's another thing. But actually go out there and try making a difference. Do something to help. those posts on Twitter, they're great at getting your own personal message across, but they don't really do much to help at all. Just do what you can to help. That's all I'm saying.
You said it.
Yeah. All right. You want to wrap things up here, Danny?
That's all you got from me, man. Rest in peace to, all those children who lost their lives, teachers who sacrificed their lives, those injured. Just rest in peace.
Exactly. I mean, I obviously this is an important factor that we want to discuss, and I hope we never have to discuss this again. I hope we never have to take time out of the show to go into the specifics of what happened here. But of course, it's something that was needed. I mean, we hate to end it on a somber note, but obviously, of course, thanks you for everybody who joined in on our first live stream. It was a memorable experience. We made the best of it. We'll be back Thursday to cover Game 1 of the NBA Finals. And until Thursday, have a great night, everybody.